within our community. And so, if you don't mind, we always honor who is the greatest. And so, if you don't mind, stand as we go into a word of prayer. Gracious Heavenly Father, we honor you, we glorify you, we thank you for this day. This is the day that you have made, and we will rejoice and be glad. Thank you for bringing us together with like-mindedness to come together to bring a solution to something that is concerning you and on your heart. As we move forward, God, allow us to come together as one mind, in unity, together to bring an understanding of how important it is to look after the community that you have invested us into. So we forever give you the honor, glory, in your Son, Jesus, and we pray. Let everyone say amen. Amen. Again, my name is Robert L. Jackson III. I'll tell you about the L. Reason I say L, I'll tell you about that later. I am a part of Black Fathers Weekend. Thank you for coming. Thank you for showing up. There are some great things in store. We have some great generals here that has really brought an ideal and a movement together. This is not just just some type of understanding. This is a movement. And one of the things that I quotate, we always say, if we don't be concerned and take care of our community, we won't have a community to take care of or to see after. And so that's the purpose that we're here. That's the reason that we're here. So put on your seatbelts, sit back, and let's enjoy ourselves as you really understand the purpose and solutions of what's going to take place through this movement of Black Fathers Weekend. Thank you so much.
Well, good afternoon. How y'all doing? Good afternoon. Good. I can speak. My name is Derek Jones Jr., and I'm here just giving you all the welcome and the purpose for today's event. And so Black Fathers Weekend was created as a response, just to respond to the challenges that's facing our communities today. As the quote that says right here is rescuing Black fathers so they can rescue their families, focusing on seven principles. And those principles are marketplace economics, family community, faith, spirituality, government decision-making, education, justice, health, and entertainment, media, innovation, technology. And so the whole purpose is just a response to our challenges that's facing us. My dad said he had a meeting with a gentleman. He said that we're not thriving in this system because this system wasn't designed for us to thrive in. So how do we thrive in a system that wasn't designed for us to thrive in? We create a system for us that's designed by us. So that's the purpose of today's event. So we have pastors here, we have judges here, we have the supervisor of elections here. So today we're focusing on criminal justice reform. So I hope you all learned something, because I know I will, and we can implement it into our daily lives. Thank you. Have a good one.
Good afternoon. That was pretty good. The temperature in the room perhaps to be a little more elevated. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Oh yeah, I like it like that. We're shakers and movers. So we like to shake and move. We want to put the roof on fire. Stop the bleeding. One of the things that we like to do for Black Fathers Weekend, the ladies that you see here, we are the directors, the prayer directors. How about that? Black Fathers Weekend. Prayer behind that thing. What we do is every Wednesday for Black Fathers Weekend, we pray. And it starts on Wednesday. That's the kickoff for Black Fathers Weekend. I am Dr. Jennifer Reynolds. This is Elder Kadri Johnson. This is our soon-to-be Commissioner, Cunia Gordon of Hallandale. Very present but absent with us in your viewing is State Representative Marie Woodson. Also, Senator Rosalind Osgood is a part of our prayer team. things about Friday as the directors of the prayer. We want to thank all the women that came out and that supported us and that prayed for this day. This day is founded on prayer. So the atmosphere has already been set, my brothers and sisters. So we are expecting great things today. On that note, now the soon-to-be Commissioner Kania Gordon of Hallandale Beach, Florida, will now share with us vote power. Thank you.
I will receive that in the name of Jesus. I will receive that accolade. Good afternoon, my kings and queens in this building. I want to thank God for his gracious and his love and his blessings over my life. I am the director of Vote Power, and I just wanted to give the Lord blessings over me and thanking him for all that he has done. I'm going to talk a little bit about the power of vote. But before I do that, I always like to talk about the purposeful of the day. And today is a purposeful day because it symbolizes number 4. And number 4, it says that in different ways, it represents stability, physical, emotional, mental, and also spiritual. Now let's talk about the number 4 and how did I get to number 4? Well, today is 10, right? This is October, that's the 10th month. The day is the 15th, and so now we're looking at 22, right? 2022. And when I add all those numbers up together, it comes up to the number 13. And so when I add 1 and 3 together, that gives me 4. And so what does it say in the Bible about number 4? It says the number 4, the 4th day, which was called the creation of the week, God completed the material of the universe. And on this day, he brought forth the existence of the sun, the moon, and all of the stars. And that is Genesis 1 through 14 and 19. So number 4 means builder, the ultimate builder. And so that's what we're doing today. We are building on our vote power. Building on our vote power. So the conversation that we're having today is, what is your vote power? We want you to activate that social action movement within you. You know, our ancestors died for this opportunity. And so I'm hoping that that's going to start something in you, that social action movement within you. Let's accelerate our mission of informing our family and friends. My grandmother used to always say, baby, if they know better, they'll do better. And so today, my kings and queens, you are now champions of this mission, the Black Fathers Weekend, because today you're going to hear some things, which means you're going to do what? Be able to do what? Do better. Okay, come on with it. Let's anchor our minds on getting out to vote. We must eat, drink, and live voting for the next 24 days. Honestly. We don't want to wake up on November the 9th and say, well, what happened? If we don't activate our mindset, we are going to be looking back and saying, wow, could I have done more? Could I have done a little bit more? Could I have reached out? Could I have done anything? We have to advance ourselves with the power of influence. Who am I going to influence today? So when we leave here today, we'd like for you to influence friends, family, somebody about your vote power. Finally, let's affirm what God has given us. He's given us the gift. And so whatever gift you have, use it for this purpose of your vote power. I want us to realize that when we recognize what we have, we're going to save this country. Can I hear somebody say yes? Yes. We're going to save this country. If we realize the power that we have. And some people and some individuals in this nation have said that they are losing power. They feel like they're losing power. But if we recognize we've got the power. And so our vote is our power. Again, I'd like for you to please just recognize the fact that voting does matter. Your life does matter. Please activate, accelerate, anchor, advance, and affirm all that what the Lord has given you on this day. So definitely your vote matters. I want you to understand that these midterms are important. What can you tell the next generation that's coming behind you? What impact did I have on this midterm? What are you going to say? What's going to be your legacy? I know I want to get into some good trouble. Some good trouble. Some good trouble. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I take my seat, I want to challenge you to engage, to educate, and empower every person after you leave this event, that you're going to touch them and say, we got to vote. I have to make phone calls. I have to reach out to those individuals in my family. I have to touch the little ones, the young men in our community, our kings and queens, our prince and our princesses. We have to make a difference. And yes, I am a candidate for the City of Hallandale Beach C2, where I'm rising up with hope to serve my community. Thank you.
Good evening, good evening. All right, I'm Dr. Anthony Sanders, and my script tells me to tell you I'm a baby boomer. So as we bring all our generations together, I'm supposed to let you know I'm a baby boomer, but I'm pastor of Higher Vision Ministries in Hallandale Beach, Florida, and it is my honor and pleasure to serve as your moderator for this event. This is our third installment of Black Fathers Weekend. We have done one in our northern end and our southern end, and this is our central. All right, so like we said, it's not a program, it's a movement. So for the next 74 minutes, my producer says, we're to move now and hear things that will move our families forward to greater social, economic, business, financial, health, spiritual, and monetary environment for all our Black fathers. We want to thank all of our affiliate partners that are here today, and thank you for the strength, because it's much needed as we partner together to bring about change. So let's give all of them an applause as you'll meet them as they come forward. Now, as we get started, we want to start by hearing some statistics. It may be alarming or disturbing, but that will come from Fathers MIA, Robert Jackson, and my brother, Mr. Hawkins.
Good evening. How's everyone doing? Great. Listen, just gonna go right quick with the statistics, but Fathers MIA organization where we're trying to move fathers that are missing in action to motivated, involved in action. And we need our fathers to be motivated, involved, and active, not only in the homes, but also in our community. Mr. Jackson. And these are some stats, so hopefully they will hit you hard to where what is taking place in our community. On it.
Other arrow.
of course, this is the vision of Black Fathers Weekend, rescuing Black fathers so that we can rescue our families. So this is what you have seen in the opening slide at the top. This is our vision, it's purpose for a specific reason, and we're trying to do this. And so these are some of the stats. 85% of our youth in prisons grew up in a fatherless home, 85%. 72% of all teenage murderers grew up without fathers. 63% of all youth suicides are from a fatherless home. 71% of all high school dropouts come from a fatherless home. 92% of parents in prisons are fathers. 85% of children with behavioral disorders come from fatherless homes. 279% of children from a father-absent home are more likely to carry guns and deal drugs. 92% of parents in prison are fathers. 90% of adolescent repeat arsonists live with only their mother. 90% of homeless children are from fatherless homes. 83% of mass murderers come from a fatherless home. An estimate of 24.7 million children do not live with their biological father. And these stats here is alarming. In 1960, 1980, 2000, 2015, and 2021, it evens up, but this is the percentage of unwed mothers. Out of wedlock births, 1965, 25% in the Black community. Now it's up to 80%. In the white community, 1965, it was 5%. Now it's up to 41%. The first record of marriages that was recorded for the Hispanic group in 1980 is 24%. Now it's 53% of out of wedlock births. But the alarming thing, and this is why on purpose, with purpose, we are rescuing our Black fathers to rescue their families, because in 2021, 80% of children were born out of wedlock in the Black community.
No.
You gonna leave us hanging like that?
What happened to fathers?
What happened to fathers? I think that's a good segue, because it is so important for us to not just hear about it and talk about it, but do something about it. And after meeting for now almost a year, we came to this conclusion. We got to stop talking about the problem and start doing something about it. So we are pleased and honored to have a group that we imported all the way from Tampa to come in today to talk about solutions. And that will be none other than Society First. And we're asking them to come forward. Let's come forward. Now let's give them a hand, and you can take the platform.
Praise be to God. I'm a little hoarse, and y'all work with me here. My fearless leader gave me a speech that I have to read to y'all. And it's pretty lengthy, but I know I can get through it. But first, I'm going to tell y'all a little bit about Society First and what we represent, who we are, and a little bit about myself. Okay, so Society First is a Christian organization, a nonprofit organization that it is, that seeks to put public first, society first, in social and criminal justice reform, as a society is the best gauge and how to impact its worst. And as the body of Christ, we are to believe and proclaim restoration, to ask who is willing to put their faith in our awesome God. Okay, with that being said, I'm gonna tell y'all a little bit about me, and I'm gonna read what we have to offer. Okay, me, when I was 16 years old, I was arrested, tried, and convicted for first-degree felony murder and maybe about 7 armed robberies. I wasn't a trigger man in my situation. However, I was convicted and sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences, followed by 15 years. I gotta try to remember some of the numbers. Followed by 15 years. One of the life was mandatory, one of them was a mandatory 25 years. So a translation of that is I had to serve a life sentence, die, come back to life again, serve life again, die again, come back to life, and serve 15 years. And then I will be considered to be released. So that was my sentence at the age of 16. I ended up serving 25 years in prison. I kept fighting, and God allowed me, really be honest with you, after submitting to Him, He allowed me to get my case reversed in the court system. All praise be to Him. So, the crazy part about it is how it works. He gave me a motivational drive. That motivational drive, once I was arrested, I got arrested February the 2nd. February the 2nd of 1994. On March 16th, which is my birthday of that same year, I called home. My dad told me, hey, Ira, Melissa needs to talk to you. Melissa's my girlfriend at the time. And I called her, and I just felt funny. She was like, I'm pregnant. I said, from who? I was only in jail a couple of days. I'm like, from who? Because this can't be. God wouldn't allow me to get myself in a situation to where I'm facing what I'm facing with a child on the way. You know, my dad wasn't in my life at the time. He was around, but he wasn't in my life like that. So eventually, my son was my motivation to continue to fight because I knew how I was raised, and I didn't want my son to be raised in that same way. Although I did, the time that I did, I was able to send money home through working in private systems and all that to do whatever I can to help my son. They brought me visit, so he always knew who his father was. But Society First is the type of group that we're trying to do what we can to help bring some of these fathers home. You know, because we got a lot of guys in that prison, so I'm speaking from my experience. You got some of the best guys I've ever met in my life, I've met in prison. Everybody ain't, you know, a killer or, you know, these stereotypical personas that they put on everybody. Some of them are, but you got some really, really good men in there that just need a chance. You know, we all make mistakes, and shouldn't we be held down for the rest of our natural born life? It's really a death sentence. A life sentence really is a death sentence. Should we be held down for the rest of our lives without even an opportunity or consideration? And look at me right now. I do motivational speaking for Society First. I make music, inspirational music. I write plays, which I do. Got music you can look up on YouTube. And I have a job installing air conditioning, making $28 an hour. Praise be to God. So just the opportunity that I was given. I'm a walking testimony. We call it a diamond in the rough that can be the face of a situation or a movement like Society First to say that, hey, we can change. You know, we need the help of society to get word or to put word out that, hey, man, don't throw these people away. They're still human beings. They still have lives. I'll quickly read over this and I'll be out the way. So it's to all concerned citizens. We here at Society First are presently in need of as much national and international help as we can get to bring a true restorative justice system to Florida that gives redemptive opportunity to everyone who seeks it out. Initially, we were trying to get every lifer to contact us to get around the Florida Department of Corrections saying it would be soliciting inmates prior to getting their inquiry for representation. But as this would take entirely too long, we're switching gears. We have decided to write up an ambitious cure brief, which is a brief from someone on the outside being able to give a word in the court system for someone else. Hey, I'm not a party of interest, but allow me to be able to show you the statistics and all that type of stuff. What these brothers just showed a few minutes ago. And that's how I got out. I got out based upon a statistic. They was able to say, hey, you got parole, so you don't deserve a second consideration. But the statistics showed that the parole system was only releasing 0.1, not 1%, 0.1 was under 1% of the inmates that it interviewed. So I'm pretty much saying it's a joke. Y'all not letting nobody out of prison. Y'all just got to go, boy, still there because you holding on to a job because it's been thrown out. But if you were already up under that system, they have to stay around until either you die off or you get released. So hey, if we keep these guys in prison, we keep a job. So why would they let us out? Why would you? I can sit at home while you're doing your time. Why would I get? That's the sweetest job you can have. So it says that it says we will contact everyone within our network based upon this brief. We ourselves have a constitutional expert who has a degree in constitutional law from George Mason University. We do not have an official bar certification, certified attorney, or staff with Society First. So we invite those who have committed from the very beginning to collaborate with us. They all will be named in the brief bio section, along with every other partnering sponsor or partnerships. We have at least one major law school collaborating with us and are in talks with the Citizen Project to collaborate on the brief. We also are absolutely sure that the Abolitionist Law Center and CADBI will also want to sign along. We will verify on whether the ACLU and NAACP and other legal organizations will offer their services as well. However, a very important piece fell into place when we reached that Florida determined was that the definition of indefinite confinement, which is forever, indefinite is forever, a term that runs absolutely parallel to indefinite imprisonment. It is also the civil mirroring image of the criminal law's indefinite imprisonment, in which the Supreme Court of Florida has said civil commitment is indeterminate confinement. There ain't no end. It's infinitive, which can be definitive, as it has the potential to place you into confinement for the rest of your life. And that's supposed to be illegal. This is the proverbial nail in their coffin. And as criminal law derived out of civil law, and as plain language controls in interpreting all laws, and as the rule of lenity mandates, any ambiguity or dual wording definitions must take advantage of all of these situations. That's just pretty much saying, hey, if your law says you gotta follow by it. Okay, it says clearly establishing that the validity of our claim, lest the American justice system wants to admit to the world that their justice system does not have to obey or protect the integrity of that justice. If it ain't right, why are we following it? Pretty much. These things, along with the historical breakdown of life sentences and Article 1, Section 17 that state within the Florida Constitution of the prohibition against certain excessive punishments, pretty much saying that these people giving out this time, they know that it's illegal, and we as society first is trying to bring it to the attention of everybody in society that, hey man, let our people out, man. Don't lock them up and throw away the kids. A lot of people that change their life. I'm a prime example of it. So we have information at the desk out there. We got shirts. Y'all can see. Okay, then everybody got it. So that's what we represent. We got shirts, masks, all that stuff out there to represent. Y'all give us a look. Give us a look. See. All praise be to God.
All right. Let's give our brother another hand for sharing his testimony and for bringing us information. Now we will have our panel to convene on our platform, and we have today none other than former Chief of Miramar, Dexter Williams, our Supervisor of Elections, Mr. Joe Scott, former Judge Gina Hawkins, and our public defender, Mr. Gordon Weeks. And I think I was given a Mr. Hodge. Okay. And when you introduce her, you'll tell us, because they didn't give me anything else other than your name. So, all right. Yeah, let's give our distinguished panel a hand. And we'll start with the lady on the platform first. Just give them a brief introduction, whatever is on your heart to say about yourself and who you are, and let them meet you today.
Good afternoon. I need to turn it on myself. Okay. I'll speak loud until they get the mic on. Again, good afternoon. As he stated, my name is Gina Hawkins. I am a former judge. That simply means I am no longer sitting on the bench as we speak. I sat in the circuit court of Broward County on both the family court side as well as foreclosure. Prior to becoming a judge, I was a prosecutor for many years in the state attorney's office. I'm here today. This is not a legal forum. It's a forum of community coming together and activating to save our community. So I'm not here as anything but a community servant, a servant leader, someone who has some experience in some areas where conversations need to be sparked and had, but I'm here as a voice for the community.
Thank you. We'll go to Mr. Hodge. Am I saying that right, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Check. Okay, thank you. No, this one.
It's on.
Hello. You gotta raise it. We don't want to keep it. This one.
No, that's not.
We don't want to talk.
It's on.
It's on.
It's on.
Check. Okay, microphone check. All right, we're in the building. Well, good afternoon, everybody. To all of my professionals, how are you? To all of my people from Jamaica, Wagwan. All of my brothers and sisters from Haiti, Sapase. And to all of the people from my community, what's happening?
Yeah. You got some Bahamians in there. You don't know that, okay?
Yeah,
All right, well, we got to get you to know.
Hey. Now, like I said, my name is Mr. Hodge. I'm an educator. I'm an edutainer. So I primarily facilitate workshops and seminars locally and nationally to be able to provide our youth as well as parents with information that they don't get within the traditional aspects of education. I'm an author. I'm a motivational speaker. I do music. I do videos. I do whatever it is that needs to be done in order to connect to that younger generation. So I'm a bridge. I'm a conduit of information to be able to reach back and help that next generation reach self-actualization. So I'm born and raised right here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I'm from down here, not around here. That's the difference, right?
Okay.
And so I have a great affinity for my community. You know, I went to school right here at Everglades, which is now William Dandy. Boyd Anderson High School, Florida Memorial College. I worked in the school system since 1996 in multiple capacities. So whatever I can do to be able to move our community forward, to assist our young people, our parents, to be able to understand the things that they need to do in order to get to where they need to be, I'm all about it. I mean, I think we got to come together as a team. We all know team means together everyone achieves more. So, you know, we can only do so much as individuals, but collectively, we can definitely do great things. So thank you for having me here.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gordon Weeks.
Testing 1, 2. Thank you very much for having me. When I got the call to be involved in when I got a call to be involved in a conversation about fatherhood, I was very, very excited. You know, we oftentimes demonize Black fathers, and we have to recognize that there are good, strong, supportive fathers in this community. We are going to embrace and bring along those other gentlemen to accept that role and accept that manner of being a father, being the man in a home, leading, and being supportive of a mother, and raising children, being a good example for our children to strive towards. That's a conversation that we should have every day, every single day, because each and every one of us is the role model for the next behind. When I sit in this room and I see all of the mentors that have been there for me throughout the years, that have grown a whole generation of good, strong Black men in this community, I know that we're going to be doing better. I know we're going to keep moving. I know we will get to a place where everyone will have that support and that nurture and that advancement that we all need. We got a few folks we got to go work on, but I know folks in this room ain't scared of hard work. So I embrace this conversation. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, sir. Okay, thanks for Mr. Joe Scott. Did you do your mic check?
It's good. It's on.
It's on this end.
It's on her. Yeah.
All right.
You're a communications guy, so I'm.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I tell you, sit down, man. Sit down.
It might just take a second to turn on. All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Joe Scott. So I am the supervisor of elections for Broward County. I was elected in November of 2020 to this role. I started my professional career as an Army officer. I graduated from West Point in 2004. Served a tour of duty in Iraq before leaving the military in 2009. Went back to school, got my MBA at Villanova University, and worked in the private sector for about 10 years until I decided to get involved in politics. Since being a supervisor now, my first 2 years in office, we've established first ones in the state, possibly first ones in the country, I don't know for sure, but we have a voter registration application combined with a vote by mail request that you can fill out. You don't need an envelope or a stamp to get it back to us. All right, so that's a new innovation that we have right here in Broward County. We also have expanded our footprint by establishing 6 branch offices across the county, as well as 3 additional early voting sites from what we had during the last election cycle. So it's been a busy couple of years, in addition to numerous other reforms on our social media website platforms. I'm here today primarily to talk about what our returning citizens need to know in terms of exercising the power that you have, which is that right to vote that was restored when Amendment 4 was passed in 2018. There's been a lot of problems on that front in terms of a lot of intimidation tactics, and we need to really get to the bottom of that and make sure that our returning citizens are exercising the rights that they have.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Chief, you have a mic, sir? All right.
I've been checking
All right.
every single person on mic. Make sure my mic is working. All right, guess I'll be introducing myself. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dexter Williams, retired police chief from the city of Miramar. I put 30 plus years into law enforcement. Many of these folks here on the dais up here I've worked with personally and through other avenues as well. As you can see, I also wear the brand of Kappa Alpha Psi. Yo. I was doing my fraternity brother on the end there. And just earlier this afternoon, I had another speaking engagement as well, because in Kappa Alpha Psi, we also have a program, youth program, talking to kids through our Kappa Lead program. In our Kappa Lead program, we try to target those young men that we need to, or young boys, trying to change them into men, that need that influence, that fatherly figure influence. So speaking to them this morning and talking to them about life and so forth, and of course, known fathers of my age since the onset from when they started. So when he called and asked for me to show up here, it was just hands down, I was going to be here. There are a lot of things for discussion when we talk about criminal justice reform, public safety in and of itself, and it goes on and on and on when it talks about reform because it's such a large, vast piece to discuss. But I'm going to try to narrow it down. Where I presently sit now, I am actually on the Police Criminal Justice Review Board for Broward County. It was appointed by the Broward County Commission last year. So I presently sit to review all the actions of the law enforcement within our county. All of the actions of the law enforcement within our county. This board has a vast amount of people on it and very influential folks. We have judges on there, other attorneys on there, myself, and so forth. We also have the other Broward County chiefs representative on board as well. Me being also as a past president of the Broward County Chiefs of Police, so I'm very knowledgeable on what they should be doing and what my expectation as a citizen should be of our local law enforcement. So forgive me if I don't bite my tongue when I talk about public safety and what I expect to see from them, because when I sit on these boards, I had a meeting last week, when we sit on these boards, we want to hear what's really happening. And our objective is to report back to you, the community, the taxpaying folks, of what's really happening in Davie Police Department, Plantation Police Department, Miramar Police Department. I don't give any kindness to because, I spent, a vast of my career at Miramar. It doesn't matter. I'm the one who wrote those policies. So I expect them to adhere to those policies. So that's going to be my discussion point this evening as it relates to public safety, criminal justice, and then also what you as a citizen would like to see from our criminal justice teams out there and with engagement in our community as well. So I'm open for all questions in regards to that. But again, please, forgive me for, not biting my tongue. I'm going to speak it, and I'm going to speak it to the truth. Okay, thanks. Okay.
All right. So I think we're going to start there then.
Yeah, let's start
All
there.
right. And the way we'll do this, if you have anything to add, once I go to somewhere, you can just acknowledge me, and I will acknowledge you so you can. So a question came in for you, Chief, and it asks, how are officers held accountable when they fail to properly address those they make contact with within the community?
Okay, there are 2 points to that. One, if you're referring to it from the perspective of engagement from a criminal perspective or engagement in just casual meeting of an individual in the community. So, like, if you can just kind of home me in.
Well, I'm going to start with the casual because I done been jacked up before. And the fact of the matter, didn't do anything, but whether you want to call it just driving while black or whatever you want to call it, but when they engage, and actually it was my own police force, but when they engaged me, it was not proper. So how does that, when it gets reported, how is it handled within the police department?
Got it. So we're talking about learned behaviors, right? Individuals that I try to hire, well, retired. Let me back up. Chiefs that are trying to hire good people, we have to try to assess their behavioral content on how they are going to engage with our community, speaking to our community. I could care less about their skill base. I could teach them skill, but trying to teach them how to be polite and how to engage with the community, that's a whole nother ball of wax. And I always used to tell them the same thing. Anytime that I got to go on TV to have to speak about one of you, it's not going to be about my policy. That's simple, because that's already etched in black and white. I'm going to end up speaking about your behavior. That's what I end up having to deal with. So in our policy books, there is such a thing as conduct and what we expect of your conduct out there all the time, because you're always going to be judged, period, good, bad, or indifferent. So their conduct is etched from that policy. The policy dictates that you would be courteous and so forth. And there's a list of things that they should be doing. But you also have to remember they're 21-year-olds. They're 22-year-olds. They're your kids, my kids. My daughter, oh my God. So help me. I want to strangle her a few times, but she just doesn't get it. So it's kind of like I keep shaking her, keep giving her the information until she gets it. So sometimes that takes time for them to actually get it. When they do get it, they become valid and viable, productive officers out in the street. Those are the ones that I don't have to pay attention to, but I expect for them to then teach the next one as they're continuously trying to come up.
Okay.
I didn't want to call him a community member.
They'll tell me.
Yeah, that's what I was
right
going
now.
to
You
do
keep
that.
talking.
Right. So that's where it is for us. We have a generalized performance for their behavior, and those are the things that we expect. Those are the things that we gauge them on annually to see how they have been engaged in our community. Comment cards, whether it's a good, bad, or indifferent. We want to hear about it. I want to hear about it. That's why we have so many platforms. Every agency has a platform that you can report their behavior. Every agency has an internal process that reviews those behaviors. I have, when I was at Miramar, I had an actual program that actually tracked those things. Whether you're one of 400, that's okay. I can't keep up with one of 400, but I got a system in place that's going to tell me that you had a citizen complaint 5 years ago. And if you get one tomorrow, I know now you had 2 complaints over your tenure with me. So I'm going to end up looking at those individuals and say, okay, I need to talk to you about your behavior, or I'll send it down to the team and have them pull it. And then as long as we have awareness, then it prevents them from continuing with the bad behavior. So we have awareness, we intervene, that stops the bad behavior. If they can't stop the bad behavior, I cut them.
You cut them?
Yeah. Start moving toward a dismissal, or some type of sanction that helps, to address that situation, depending on the volume of the situation.
Okay. Anybody else on the panel want to respond?
If I can jump in here, I think this is an important point. There are supposed to be several checkpoints or safety valves that's created in the system. Police officers are engaging poorly when they interact with folks during a traffic stop, or encountering folks at the basketball court, or just, responding to a call. What do? You can complain, make a IA complaint. But most importantly, you need to remember that most of these officers are wearing body cameras. And that encounter is being recorded. That's why we as a community, that's why we as public defenders, folks within the system, are pushing law enforcement officers to wear those body cameras, and more importantly, activate them at the beginning of the encounter. We don't know how it's going to go, south or it's going to go north, but we want it to be fully recorded. Now, once it goes to the process, the state attorney gets to see it because they prepare the discovery that they're going to send over, and we get to see it. Now, we see that bad behavior captured on body camera. We have a more likely chance of getting chiefs of police the evidence they need to make the disciplinary action that they need to take. So this whole process of trying to document, trying to make sure there's checks and balances for law enforcement is important. Any law enforcement officer that's afraid of a body camera is afraid of their own behavior, because it also protects them. It protects them from those instances where folks are saying, hey, they were rude to me, but in fact, they were trying to manage the circumstance and trying to manage the encounter. So we need to have those consistent checkpoints where the citizen can make a complaint, where the state attorneys review the discovery before they send it over, where we review the discovery when we receive it, where the courts can interject into that. And more importantly, not only if it's a policy violation, but if it rises to the level of criminality where they put their hands on someone inappropriately. We need to make sure that law enforcement understands that we expect more for them, because we give them that solemn responsibility and power to wear that gun and to be able to take a life in the defense of people. So, I appreciate Chief, because he is my chief, or he was, and he's always going to be, because I'm a resident of Miramar. And he was a good chief. He had good officers. But we have to have more chiefs like that throughout Broward County. I'm going to talk on a point that I'm going to say. We need more black chiefs of police all throughout this community. I'm going to tell you why. It is very, very difficult for law enforcement officers. There's that line, that code that exists within law enforcement. And I know chiefs I've had conversations with, and I won't share them, recognize it's difficult, even as a Black law enforcement professional, to deal with those officers that you know are going to do wrong. You know, sometimes they got to wait till they're papered enough before they can take action against them. They can try to establish a culture within the department, but it's difficult to break that line. So, you know, we have to recognize as communities, you know, Fort Lauderdale, you know, we had a Black chief of police for a long time. We had, we got, Dexter Williams over there in Miramar for a long time. It's important for us to have folks that understand our communities setting the standard for how policing is going to happen in our communities. And that is why we're going to have a reduction of Black fathers being ripped out of communities for pity pat arrests, or where they're targeting certain communities, certain zip codes because of certain types of crime trends that they're seeing. That is the power of the chief. That's the power of law enforcement. I can go on and on about this. This stuff really bothers me, but I won't.
Okay.
If I can jump for 1 second on that.
Sure.
How many Black chiefs do you think are in Broward County presently?
None.
Two. I was one till I retired, and then I put one behind me to make sure that it remained sane. That was strategic, believe me. And it took years to do that. The other one is a female. One. That's correct. One. Me and Constance Stanley, we were the only two. At that time, we were the only two also rising to the presidency of the Broward County Police Chiefs. She was the president at the time. I was the vice president until the succession plan continues to go through. When she leaves, I assure you, it's going to be one and probably none. Look at that one day. Believe me, exactly what he said. It was a very hard trick to try to stay in place and change things and make things better for your community. Because a lot of them don't understand, a lot of chiefs did not understand what was really going on in the community. I grew up in that community. Came up in Brooklyn, and yards. It was tough. But believe me, he's exactly right. You have to make changes in your community and demand them.
Thank you, sir. One quick follow-up, if you can do it in 30 seconds. It was asked, why are officers with a bad report or negative report, how can they leave one agency and then be allowed to work for another agency?
Amen.
That's also on the chief. Reason being, one, they're licensed. They have a license. They can go to other agencies and so forth. A lot of them do carry black eyes. I will just call it that, just to kind of categorize it. They do have black eyes coming from one agency and being picked up at another agency. It's very slim pickings out there when we're trying to get very good officers in. But some agencies are struggling right now. Some agencies, you'll find out they have 15 vacancies sitting there, 20 vacancies sitting there. And anything that comes around the corner, they'll end up jumping on it because they're trying to fill bodies in those seats because they don't want to lose their funding. So that's just the business side, that's the back side of it. But yes, they hold a black eye. Depending on who the chief is, will depend on whether or not they pick them up. I was very dead set against that. Anybody who had an internal affairs file record, I really never really touched it, because I had 10 more standing behind me.
Yeah. Thank you. Let's go to voting first. Oh, go right ahead, sir.
Chief, I got a question pertaining to increasing the number of chiefs in Broward County. Is that an elected position? How do you go about doing that?
You said it, elected. The elected officials, who also are the bosses for the city management team, make those decisions. I could never be a chief and go to where Hallandale and think that the city manager is going to hire me without the blessing of that city management, of that elected management for that city. So if the city commission is asking for, this to look differently, that's the way it's going to make it be happen.
That's good. And that's gospel. Because I'm from Hallandale.
Right, and we had a.
And the only way they got a black chief.
Not with the Hallandale thing,
But
okay?
I'm back.
I just
Actually,
use it hypothetical.
I'm backing you up. I'm backing you up. The only way they got a black chief is because I was on the commission.
Right.
And because I was on the commission, we changed and got it. Now, once I got off, they got rid of the black chief. So it is what it is. Okay, so let's go to voting. And the question is, and I'm going to make it kind of two-part. I want to know, what are your main challenges you face in your first term? And then there's a lot of maybe confusion or discussion regarding the polling places, meaning some are saying they're being closed, and they're being closed purposely so that, we won't know where to go vote. Clear some of that up for us, because you're the man. So tell us what's really going on, and tell us what you can add to that and some of your challenges in your first term.
Sure. So the first thing I'll mention is that, we've had close to 30,000 people have already voted in this election. So that's, we sent out 365,000 vote by mail ballots about a week ago. And we've sent out thousands more since then. All right, close to 400,000 likely within the next week or so. All right, so a lot of people in Broward County are now voting by mail. We've set up a new program where people can track their ballot and know the status of their ballot, so they can feel confident that that vote by mail ballot made it. And requesting a vote by mail ballot does not stop you from being able to vote in person if you would like to. You can't vote more than once. You can only vote one time, and we're only going to let you vote one time. All right? But just because you request a vote by mail ballot doesn't mean it gives you more options, not fewer. All right? Now let me hit something else. Early voting, like I mentioned earlier, expanded. Went from 22 locations last cycle to 25 locations this cycle. So where are those new locations? North Lauderdale, Dania Beach, and the Carver Ranches Library in West Park. All right? So we're opening up new, and we're looking for more locations for early voting. Why do we want to have that? Because early voting goes on this fall. We're going to have it for 14 days, 12 hours a day. So what's Election Day? Election Day is 1 day. All right? 12 hours a day for 1 day. All right? And you know how many options you have as far as how many different locations you can go to on Election Day?
25.
You have one location on Election Day. One. But during early voting, if you live in Broward County, you have 24 different places that you can go. We have our government center where you can also drop off your vote by mail. So there's 25 locations to deliver your vote by mail, 24 locations to vote in person. All right? So when you have so many different places you can go vote, and you have your options of where you can go vote, and you have 14 days to get it done, why on earth? Why on earth? You don't know what's going to happen if you wait till the last day. You don't know your kids are going to get sick. You're going to get stuck at work. There's an accident on I-95. You can't make it home. Right? There's so many different things that can happen when you wait till the last day. So my biggest encouragement that I would say to folks is vote early. Don't wait till the last day. All right, now let's talk about the change in the footprint. So we did this year was a redistricting year. And there was a need to kind of relook the footprint of the precincts that we had on the last day. There were multiple different issues with some of the locations. Some of the locations basically did not want to be a voting location anymore because of some of the, we'll just call it the raucous that happened in 2020. So we had places that did not want to be polling places anymore. And also because of COVID-19 was a big one as well. You also had situations that came up, like say you had locations that we just had one where the elevator broke. So there's a lot of different things that are going on that are causing a move and a shift to happen. So a lot of folks who may have had a change or a shift in their polling location, it's most likely, for one thing, almost everybody lives within a mile of their polling place, within a 1 mile radius of their polling place. But anybody who maybe used to vote at one place, used to vote at another, there's a number of different reasons that could have happened. But there's a lot of things that have changed in the last couple of years, and we're working hard to make sure that if any communities were negatively impacted, and that's what we're really looking for, who has to travel a long way on election day to vote? All right? If we find a pocket of a community or something where we missed something on the map, and we say, oh man, we've got to fix this, but we're eager to do that. So we're eager to find those opportunities and fix those things. So it's not as if anybody's trying to stop people from voting. It's the exact opposite. We're trying to make it easier and give more opportunity for people to vote, mainly by expanding early voting, because that's really the key. That's the key to making sure that everybody in our community turns out to vote.
Okay, so let me just make sure we're clear. You expanded early voting.
Yes.
So that provides more opportunity to vote early.
Right.
And then you, using this word, you condense on voting on election day to one location or to a primary location.
So that's not, so by the way, that's state law, that's not me. But so what happens is basically during early voting, it's just really the way Florida law is written. And a lot of this stuff, and we can talk about this, especially with the returning citizens, some stuff is just designed to be confusing. All right? So during early voting, you can go anywhere. And then people are come back to ask me, how come you can't go everywhere on election day? Well, let me tell you this. Some of those counties who just got hit by a hurricane, they can go wherever they want on election day because it was an emergency order that changed the rules. But only for certain places. Not everybody who got hit by the hurricane. Not everybody who got damaged by the hurricane. Just the ones that they wanted to help. Okay? So that's the truth. So here's the deal. So that's the law. So the law and the deal is that on election day, you must go to your assigned precinct. So your assigned precinct is a place that's close to where you live. So when I mention that, will be within a mile radius of your house for almost everybody. There's some exceptions. If you live in Southwest Ranches, you might have to drive a little bit. But for most folks, you live within a 1 mile radius of that place that you're going to vote. All right? But that's if you wait till the last day. If you go to early voting, you can go wherever. You can go to any of the 24 locations in Broward County that offers in-person voting. So that means you can go to a place that's close to your job. If you have a family member or a friend that you want to take to the polls with you, you can go pick them up and y'all can vote together even if you don't live in the same neighborhood. That's something you can't do on election day. If somebody wants you to go drop off their vote by mail ballot for them, you can do that during early voting. You cannot do that on election day. All right? So there's all these things in place that make it so that the people who vote early, have more options. It's easier. And this isn't my doing. This is the state law. But it's just important for everybody to understand this. If you choose to vote early, the options, the availability is much greater. If you wait till that last day, the options shrink and it's more difficult for people to vote.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Hart?
How difficult would it be to change the law pertaining to what you just stated?
We have to change our state legislature. So currently, our state legislature is, it's been decades now of gerrymandering. So even though Florida is an evenly divided state, our state legislature is not evenly divided. And the vast majority of people in the Florida legislature, I would imagine if you went and asked them right now, they would probably tell you the last election was stolen without any evidence to back it up. All right, so this is the situation that we're dealing with out there. We've got people in the state of Florida, people in positions of power who have gone very, very extreme and are doing everything that they can to stop folks who look like those of us in this room from voting.
So one more question, gerrymandering. Can you break that thing on down?
Sure. So what gerrymandering is, it has to do with the way that the districts are drawn. So it has to do with the basically using that power of drawing districts, which our Florida legislature has. So whoever, the people that are in charge then have the ability to perhaps draw a district so that the people that are likely to vote against them, you pack as many of those people as you can into the fewest number of districts possible, and the people that are likely to vote for you, you spread it out in a way that you end up winning a lot more districts than you should. So even though the state might be evenly divided, the legislature ends up greatly slanted in one direction because they drew the lines a certain way.
All right. Well, you're going to ask it now.
Mr. Scott, you said earlier that if it's early voting, that I can pick someone's vote by mail ballot and drop it off?
You can, absolutely.
Because I thought there
100%.
was a law that said that it had to be my cousin or my someone that was a relative of mine that I had to do that. I didn't know that I can pick up everybody in the community and drop their stuff off.
I didn't say you could pick up everybody in the community and drop this stuff off.
I'm just saying. Help me to understand.
So what I did say was that if you're heading to the polls and somebody says, hey, can you drop off my vote by mail ballot? And you want to take that ballot and go drop it off, that is perfectly okay. Nobody's going to fault you for doing that. All right? That is a very different thing than going door to door in your neighborhood, knocking and collecting all the ballots in your neighborhood. I did not say that was okay. If you're at work and somebody at your job and you say, hey, I'm about to go over to the early voting site, you want to come? Well, I'm not going to come, but I actually have a vote by mail ballot in my car. Can I give it to you? Can you drop it off for me? So many people out there are scared right now. Hold on, I don't know if that's legal or not. Take it from me, I'm the supervisor of elections. You can take your co-worker's ballot and drop it off. Okay? All right, so let's talk about what the law does say, because obviously there's something there that keeps you from going door to door in your neighborhood, right? That's the idea. You can't go door to door in your neighborhood. It's your household. So anybody in your household, and by the way, just to be clear, there is no numerical limit on how many ballots you can drop off. That is not there. What is there is that it says you are only allowed to bring your immediate family, your household, your immediate family, and in addition to that, your own ballot, your immediate family's ballot, and you can bring 2 more. Okay? Now, again, there is no numerical limit on how many ballots you drop off. Because how many people live in your house? How many family members do you have? Okay? Now, I'm not saying that to be cute or anything. I want everybody to comply with the law. So, but I also don't want people to be scared. And I think that's the thing. I think some of this stuff is meant to be intentionally confusing so that people are intimidated, so that people are afraid. Okay? You know, I think I'm really glad that you asked that question because people are nervous and they'll sit there and, you know, there are people who want you to not be a good neighbor, right? You're being a good neighbor if your neighbor says, hey, can you drop off my ballot for me? That's just being a good neighbor. Nobody's telling you you can't do that. Right? But people think they can't, and people are just like, nah, I don't want to get in trouble. Right? And that's what they want. And trust me, most of this state, that we're worried about that. Most of the state isn't worried about that. Most of them don't even know the law changed.
Right.
They don't know and they don't care. They had a little basket where they collected ballots at their church every Sunday, and guess what? They're going to do the same thing this year. And nobody's going to stop them. We're not going to do that here. That ain't happening in Broward County. Because we know that if it happens in Broward County, it's going to be a very big deal. But it can happen somewhere else and it'll be fine.
Can I follow up on that?
Sure.
Why is it going to be a big deal here in Broward County? You know, this legislative session, you know, our governor pushed through some laws that created a police department in the Division of Election.
Right.
A police department to investigate election and voter issues. Now, we all knew what that police department was designed to do. It was to police certain communities.
Right.
Certain communities that have a very, very large blue group of people that live in them, that are largely Democratic, people of color, souls and poles. So when that police department was created, they were also trying to establish, you know, the fear tactic. You know, we've had a constitutional amendment here in Florida that said that folks that have paid their debt to society will be able to vote.
Right.
Both sides voted overwhelming to support that. But then our governor went out and skimmed through some records and arrested 24 people all throughout the state of Florida. And he came to Broward County to announce that. Stood in our courthouse to announce that. Why? Why? Why did he come to Broward County? Because he wants to make sure that we are walking on eggshells, that we are afraid to be arrested, that we are going to be his example of if you don't fall in line, we're going to get you. You know why? Because Broward County is the largest Democratic elected population, not only in the state of Florida, but in the nation. So his road to the White House leads through where? So we need to know what's going on. We really need to know. So when I see all of y'all in this room, and I know that y'all have a very tight network, and the tentacles reach very far and vast, make sure you take yourself and grab somebody else and take them to the polls and vote, because we cannot have this foolishness.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, if you have a question, if you just write it down, okay. My pastor gonna help me out and bring them to me so we can get them in. Let's move now to our distinguished judge. So we want to ask on this.
Make sure you're saying former.
Former. All right, former. It'll be my era, but I'm gonna make sure former judge. Let's talk. We want to talk about discretion. Discretion, and what is the discretionary power of a judge, and how can it be used in cases or outcome of cases? Because from our view, it seems as if discretion is given to some more than others, even though the crime may be identical. The discretion is used over here, but it's not used over here. So talk to us a little bit about discretionary power.
Well, when you talk about the discretionary power of a judge, and I'm going to assume you're asking about a criminal judge.
Criminal, yes.
So I'll be very frank. One, I never sat on the criminal bench. However, I prosecuted cases for a number of years here in Broward County. And I do understand, as a former judge, it doesn't matter which bench, which types of cases you sit on. Judges' discretion could be very vast, but if you don't understand, and I believe in the criminal aspect of it, a lot of people don't understand the areas in which a judge's discretion can be used in criminal court. Many people are of the opinion that, he was charged with this and this guy was charged with the same thing and their sentences were extremely different. That does not necessarily have to do with the judge's discretion. As a matter of fact, most times it's not the judge's discretion. In criminal court, you're dealing with things like score sheets, if it's a felony case. And so one person committing the same crime, their score sheet may look vastly different from someone else who did the same crime. And because they had more points, they ended up with a stiffer sentence. So you have to understand there are so many different innuendos that you have to understand as it relates to where the judge's discretion actually lies. There are certain situations, however, where the judge does have a lot of discretion in how they deal with individuals that come through their courtroom, and it many times it hinges off of in cases if they're returning on probation and things of that sort. Judges have to make decisions on whether or not to continue this person on probation or to revoke the probation and things of that nature. Again, a lot of that having to do with the nature of what's happening. There are statutes in place that kind of govern in criminal court a lot of what the outcomes are, and it's not as much discretion as many people believe.
Okay, you want to speak to that?
I would love to speak to that.
I figured you did, so that's why.
I am a great proponent of the work that judges do. But sometimes judges' hands are just tied. Their hands are tied, and every year it seems like they're trying to make it tighter and tighter for judges to have wiggle room to give grace when grace needs to be given. Back in the day, judges had discretion on bond issues. They had discretion on violations of probation. They had discretion on sentencing. And every year, it seems like they're putting caps and limits on that. When it came to sentencing, they put score sheets in place and said mandatory minimums, violation, vehicle CC, and, they have all these acronyms, HO, and this, that, and the other, where you are capped with respect to your sentence if the judge is mandated to give you a certain sentence. Then after that, they said, well, all these people getting probation, because the judge had, some little bit of discretion there. Said, oh no, we're going to put a little cap on that and make it more difficult that you're a violent concern. So now the judge has to articulate these reasons to deviate and make it more difficult for them to reinstate you to probation. Then it becomes, bond and things of that sort. Every single time that good judges that want to give folks opportunity to be able to move forward, the legislature up in Tallahassee is trying to lock it down. And why are they trying to do that? This criminal justice system has a lot of flaws. It's the best criminal justice system in the world. It has produced, the most fair system that we have in the world, but it still is flawed. And it's flawed on an aspect of perception. When a judge sees a person before them, although they are mighty in wearing that black dress that they wear up there, they cannot put aside that they have bias, because we all have it. We all have bias. And if that young man looks a lot like my son, he walks like my son, talks like my son, has my son's swagger, then I may be biased and lean towards wanting to give him a shot, because I feel that compassion towards my child that I see before me. But if I don't have no relation, or I don't have that connection, I don't have that understanding of that person that's appearing in front of me, I might not be so compelled to take a shot on them. And that's the bias that we have. That's the reality of the courts. So what do? We got to make sure we elect judges that understand our communities. Simple. It's simple as that. If a judge doesn't understand the people that they're judging, how can they be a judge? Every community is a little different. And that's why it's local. So you have folks from that local community that understand the community. I remember right down the street, Black Judges Night. There's like 3 judges in there. Now it's grown to a whole host of judges that come out. We have a number of Black judges. We need more though. We do. We need good people that understand our community in those positions of authority, because the reality is when you have somebody before you and you're hearing their life story and you're hearing why you should give them a second chance, you got to be able to relate to that. If you have had a member of your family suffer from drug addiction, you may understand those things a little bit differently. If you had somebody, that has had mental health issues, and you've seen the struggles that they've had, the good days, the bad days, you may understand that person a little bit different. That's why judges matter. I can go on and on about judges. Y'all see what's going on with the Supreme Court. Okay? Y'all see that we slept on Trump. We have nobody to blame. Not Broward County, but the nation has nobody to blame but ourselves. Because we were sleeping. We said, oh, we're going to let this radical, and guess what happened? He stacked the bench, stacked the courts, and we have judges in the Supreme Court that are hell bent on unraveling the rule of law right in front of our eyes. So please, if you do anything, vote, research your judges, understand the folks that know the system, know the people, understand the process, and elect good judges every single time.
All right, thank you. We're gonna go to Chief, and then we're gonna have a follow-up. They wanna know what a score sheet is, but I'm gonna let Chief jump in first.
I wanted to jump in because you spoke on
Former Chief.
on the.
Former Chief.
I'm retired.
Well, I just want to make sure I'm in line. Former Judge, former Chief.
Former Chief.
Okay, former Chief.
Good.
Okay. All right.
The reason why I wanted to jump in on this is because we talk about discretion, and discretion is from top all the way to the bottom. And community, I really, really do want you to understand, when you talk discretion, you are going to make those decisions for our children, the yes and the no's of their lives, which is going to sculpt them to be the one sitting up here soon. It starts with Mr. Hodge down there, Brother Hodge for me, because he's in the schools. Like I said, we do programs together and stuff like that. He's in the schools, and he's teaching them in the schools how to understand themselves, and so that they can have good discretionary decisions that need to be made in life. On my end as a chief, and my officers that were on the street, they have all the discretion in the world, up to a point. And I used to always tell them that, listen, if you see a kid coming through here and he got an ounce of weed or something like that, really? Are you actually really about to put them in handcuffs, take 2 hours out of the day to carry them clear out nowhere and bring them? Come on, are we seriously going through all of this? Yeah. I need them to make those good decisions to say, listen, kid, use that opportunity to pull them back and say, I'm giving you a chance here. That's the discretion. I'm giving you a chance here. Why? I was one of those kids. I grew up in Brooklyn. I've been arrested, did everything. You name it, I did it. And that is what helped me, because I had somebody wearing that black dress and looked at me and said, kid, I'm about to give you 4.5 to 12 for what I did. Boy, you talking about changing your life? Flash. Because that 6x9 wasn't good on me. No. I was not trying to live in anybody's prison for any reason whatsoever. He gave me a second chance. That was discretion. That discretion turned me into a police chief. You understand what I'm saying? So take those opportunities to talk to your kids, the kids that are in the community, their friends. My daughters, they hated to bring kids over because I was like, yeah, all right, everybody sit at the table. Oh, come on, man. What your daddy gonna say? You already know what I was gonna say. What y'all doing today? Where y'all going? Who got this? Who smelling like? What you smelling like? Where you was at? You know it. Speak to it. Because if you don't course correct them today, their trajectory is gonna win. So you have got to make those changes for them. That's why I love Mr. Hunt. If you ever listen to, shameless plug, I'm sorry, bro. You've got to go online and look at some of his stuff. And you'll see exactly. When I used to go talk to the kids, and they'd be like, yeah. By the time he finished talking to them, they all applaud, jumping up and down. They want to go out there and start videos. Why? Because he got to them. And that's all that matters to me. I don't care how we get to them. Let's get to them.
That's right. All right. Thank you, sir. They want to know what a score sheet is. They want to know who created it, and then what is a score sheet? That was the question. And then I'm coming to you, Mr. Hart. We got to hear from you. Or just tell them what it is.
I want to say it was something. I won't pinpoint a year, but many years ago, it was established through the court system, through our legislature, that there will be a criminal score sheet. And the way you start accumulating points is when you get your initial felony. That's the first time as a prosecutor that you learn how to even fill out a score sheet when you start doing felony cases. There are points for misdemeanors, but it's 0.2. But they don't start scoring misdemeanors until you get your first felony. So what happens is you pick up a felony, and then after that, all of the crimes that have been committed in a certain span of time can be added to your score sheet. The crime that you're currently before the court on goes at the top, and it at that moment weighs more than it would if it's a past crime. But what happens is every time you go into court, if you are a recidivist, someone who is constantly picking up charges, that score sheet is there, and they're gonna get the printout that says this person committed this crime, that, and it just keeps adding. So you will have points that get collected under your name and social. So when you go into the court system, someone who committed a grand theft auto on the same day and time you did, if that's their only crime, they may have, 5 points, where you have that grand theft auto, which is 5, then you've got all these past misdemeanors, 0.2, 0.2, 0.2, 0.2. And when you get to a certain number, then the judge will lose total discretion in how they sentence, because they cannot go below a certain sentence on the score sheet. And that's what Gordon was talking about earlier. They're tightening it up where judges lose the ability to say, I'm gonna give this person a chance. If this person has been in the system enough, then the first thing the judge wants to know to the prosecutor is pass up the score sheet, because that's what is going to be their guide in determining what the sentence will be.
Is that different from a rap sheet?
Rap sheet, score sheet, no. Rap sheet, generally, when you hear people say rap sheet, that's just a list of all your crimes, and they tell you what the categories are. The score sheet is where those same crimes from your rap sheet get numbers to them, and they become points.
Right.
But the rap sheet that you just talked about is what the officers on the street get. And then they will look at it and go, oh, so I see you've been in this, and this. You know what? Turn around. And that's how that goes.
And, just the history on the score sheet, I researched it, and I marvel at how we have just gone full circle. The reason they created a score sheet is because they saw that there was disproportionate sentencing, that people were being sentenced differently for the same crime. So they said, hey, we need to make this fair. So let's create a point score for each crime, and then we'll put it on a score sheet, and we'll be able to say, if you did this over here, you did the same thing over there, you should be eligible for the same punishment. All that went through, everybody thought it was a good idea. Years later, they pulled a study and looked at all the score sheets throughout the state of Florida. And they found that Black men received twice the punishment than anyone else, even though they scored the same exact thing on the score sheet. And there lies the great question: how? That is the way the criminal justice system works. You come up with a great idea, you try to fix that idea to make it fair, and then the fix becomes even more unfair down the road. The fix becomes the fix. So what we have to do is look at why folks that are scoring the same on the score sheet are receiving different punishment merely because of their race. And that is a very important thing. These are the checks and balances that we have to have. I felt from my time as in the criminal justice system, just anecdotally watching it, that there was a problem. But when that study came out and proved that was a problem, I knew that we needed to make a fix. What that fix is, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, because I would be afraid to entrust judges again with the unfettered discretion to sentence any way they so choose. Because we know that we oftentimes get the short end of the stick. It's just Black folks always get the short end of the stick. So the fix is to either do away with score sheets and go back to give judges unfettered discretion as to sentencing, or to try to figure out why we're having this problem with the score sheets and black folks are still getting a different set of sentencing under the score sheet. So we got to dig a little bit deeper. That's the challenge, not for our generation of attorneys and professionals, but for generations to come, because this is a very, very complicated, nuanced problem. It's not the fault of judges alone. It's not the fault of the prosecutors alone or the police officers or the public defenders. It is a system problem. A system problem. Although we are people in the system has somehow figured out how to still be unfair in an otherwise designed fair system, which is bizarre to me.
Well, I'm sorry, one follow-up. One of the things you can look to for the answer, the fix is something else. But to answer the question, why is it still so disproportionate? Is because when you look at a score sheet, that score will determine the minimum that person can give as a sentence. It's not the maximum. So now you're looking to other parties and their discretion. Your prosecutor has some discretion. And then the judge also has discretion. Because if the score sheet adds up and says the least they can get is 18 months in prison for this felony, keep in mind that felony still carries 5 years as a max. So then now you have that window. And that's where the biases come into play, I believe. Who are you going to give a second chance to, or who are you going to understand where they're coming from and say, hey, let's sit down, let's talk about what you're scoring and what we can do to lessen your time inside and maybe work on some programs or something after the fact. But that, again, is now the discretion at the persons that are holding those files, prosecutors and judges.
Thank you. We're gonna go to
I just had a
Mr. Hodge.
question pertaining to something that you just stated. You said Trump stacked the deck pertaining to the judges, right? Was that an executive level decision, or was that something that could have potentially been impacted from the community? Did the community have any say-so in what took place on that level? Or that was totally beyond our scope?
You know, there's two areas. There's federal judges and then there's state judges. And the federal judges ordinarily are addressing the issues that are going to impact communities on a very, very large scale, like freedom of speech issues, abortion issues, donating to campaign, Halliburton issues, those big issues. Now, any civil rights issues oftentimes are going to be decided on a federal level. Human issues are going to be decided on a federal level. So when Trump got in, remember, they blocked a lot of Obama appointees, slowed their process down, their confirmation hearings, because they know how to play the legal maneuvering up in DC. So there was a lot of vacancies, and Trump jumped right on that. They have this Federalist Society, and this is the inside baseball with us lawyers. There's a bunch of Federalist Society judges that believe in the original intent of the Constitution, and they recruit these folks from law school and train them up throughout their legal career. And this whole premise of the original intent of the Constitution, do y'all know that we would not be here under the original intent of the Constitution? Women would not be able to vote or participate in anything under the original intent of the Constitution. White men, property owners, were only people the Constitution was originally written to God. It wasn't about us. So Trump knew that, and that has been a movement throughout the federal level. Well, guess what has happened? That has matriculated itself down into the state level. Our governor has the authority to appoint judges. And they look for seal of approval. Are you a member of the Federal Society? You know, there's a lot of game plan that's going on up there. All right, lots of game plan. And we have to know what is happening. And when the reason they are so fixated on the courts is because the courts has always been our last safeguard to protect us. We didn't win it at the polls. You know, we got some bad legislatures. They passed some bad laws, but we know the judges, they're gonna listen and make a good ruling and follow the law. But you got square judges in there, and they lean. They raided Mar-a-Lago.
Yes, sir.
Never ever before have the Department of Justice is doing an investigation and say, but wait a minute, Trump says I want you to have an attorney look over the evidence you see in your investigation before you can investigate. They go to some judge up in Boca, federal Trump appointee, and she says, go right ahead. Just destroys the whole premise and all of the history and the rationalization of the law. Why? Because he knew he was stacking the deck. He would need these cards to be played later on.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't wear a tinfoil hat or any of that stuff. I don't believe in aliens. Something is going on. Something's going on. We don't see it happening right in front of our eyes. And it's like it's happening in slow motion. And we're all just watching the car just crash next to us. We're just watching it. And no one is afraid. I'm afraid. I'm definitely afraid. Definitely afraid. You know, this may be controversial, but Roe versus Wade had a lot more to do than just abortion.
Amen.
All right? There is a premise in law called stare decisis. Stare decisis. You know, they force us to learn Latin when we go to law school. There's a principle called stare decisis. And that principle means that when you decide something today, you should follow your decisions of the past when you make decisions in the future. And the reason why you do that is because the community needs to understand that there is some confidence and stability in the law. And if the law has made rulings on X, then stick with why you came to that ruling on X and build on it in the future. So you have precedent. Precedent. You know where the law is going. It wasn't about Roe versus Wade. Y'all got caught up in the hype. It was about undermining the rule of stare decisis, which is the most fundamental rule. The first law lesson I learned in law school was that lesson. You know why? Because all law is based on previous law. It goes all the way back to England and common law, all the way from feudal lords and kings and queens. That's where our law originates from. And when they took that principle and turned it on its head, what they said moving forward is that any principle that has been established in the law that we don't like, we can go back and revisit it. That's what that was about. That's why that's so scary. That's why we have to wake up and start realizing that they're maneuvering. They are very strategic in how they maneuver. And we have to be strategic. We have to communicate with each other. We have to talk to each other. We have to go grab our brother that doesn't listen to the news and say, you better go vote.
Right.
We got to go find our friend that, is at work and say, I got to go to work. You better go vote. We got to go grab those cousins and those sisters and those uncles, and we got to say, y'all got to vote. Because they're going through their daily lives, and I understand they're focused on their daily lives, but they are destroying things right in front of our eyes. The principle, the foundation of law has been turned on its head. with Roe versus Wade. And I know you know what I'm talking about. I know you know what I'm talking about. It scares me to my core because as an attorney, you know, being in this practice, I've learned to respect this law. I don't agree with it all the time, but I've learned to respect it. We have to respect some of these things in order to build a better society. And what I see going on with these radical, extreme, hate-filled people, they are determined. We need to be just as determined. All right? Thank you.
Well, I got a question.
All right, so Mr. Hahn, you can have your question, but then I need you to go straight into what you found to be community successful things you may know, things that you may have seen that has anything to do with what we've discussed today. Because we're coming down to our last 15 minutes and I want to give you an opportunity.
When you just made a statement, law don't change hearts. So how do we go out and think that we're going to change the hearts of people when law does not necessarily address it?
You know, that's one of the difficulties because, you know, as we are in these various areas, you know, I have some friends of mine that are in medicine, right? And when I hear them talking about, you know, all the new developments and, you know, heart medication or blood pressure or diabetes, you know, my eyes fog over. I don't know what they're talking about, but there's passion to them. We have to have that same passion. You know, the law does not move hearts, but for those of us that are vested in the nuance of it, we have to explain to those that maybe not so vested. We all have had friends that have been watching these certain shows and they know every detail. They can remember every name of every character. Who watches what is that? What's that show? Not the Real Housewives.
Yeah, that's what she watching.
I'm talking about Game of Thrones. They got like a million different names and they can't remember them all. Y'all all know your friends that know every single character and all that. We need to understand the characters in our political system just as well as they understand them in that show. And we need to be able to explain it with the same kind of passion that we see from folks that vest themselves into those things. And that's how we're going to get better. These forums right here, you know, I remember many years ago when we were having challenges in this community, many folks in this room took on stuff head on by having these frank and hard conversations to push this community forward. This is how we do it every single time. Don't think this is a waste of time. This is where it starts because you're going to be the ambassadors all across the community.
Thank you. Yes.
I just want to follow up right there, what Gordon said about the community and those of us in this room being that voice for those that don't have the passion just yet and they don't understand. It is incumbent upon us to make sure we explain the nuances. Use the people that you have at the tip of your fingers. Make phone calls. Call the people that are accessible to you. You're looking at this panel. There's a reason why we are all sitting up here. Someone had access to us. Use your access. Do not sit back and make scattered choices when we go out to vote. Understand that elections are what gives us power. Elections gives us power. I'm reminded back when Obama was running, we moved like a fine-tuned engine in a car as a community. There were, I think every church had Souls to the Polls, and it was not just a one-day event. There were vans moving to the polls throughout early voting. There were t-shirts, there were phone banks at so many different churches. What happened? We got him in by landslide, and I'm not crazy enough to think that we did it alone, but look how many people got moved and activated at that time because we had a goal in mind, and we wanted to get that Black man in office. But then we fell down on the job the very next election. And since then, we have failed down on the job. We have failed
We're sitting back and we're waiting for people to come to us. We don't need them to come to us. We're the ones with the power. Do your research. We have the numbers in this county. There's a reason why everybody shows up to the black church on Sunday morning during election season. Because they want to wave at your congregations, because they know that the power is in the house. We got to use it though. We can't just sit back and wait for that one person. I heard the other day in a meeting a whole movement to get Val Demings in office. I love Val Demings, right? But what about all these other people on the ballot that's going to help us locally?
Right.
Are we going to move just as strategically to get them in office?
Right.
That's what we need to be doing. We should not wait as a community where there's a big name going. Every time somebody in our community is on that ballot, we need to be moving that fine-tuned machine every voting cycle. I won't get on my soapbox.
All right. Well, we want to ride that momentum. And I'm going to go back to you again, Mr. Hodge. I'm giving you an opportunity to, well, we're going to close out. So whatever you got to say, take the mic. I know you don't have a problem with the mic, so go on.
Check.
There you go. Check. Do your thing.
I had the pleasure of speaking to Pastor Jones this morning, and we were just talking about a plethora of different ideas and topics about our community. And the one thing that kind of stood out to me was we don't get together enough to be able to cross-pollinate with different ideas. Back in the day, we talked about it, a lot of the attorneys, they went to the Elks Lounge and they would sit back and they would talk and they would share and cross-politic and different things. Where do we have to go now? So okay, I agree. I thought you had an idea. But I think this type of forum, this type of environment, this type of gathering is so necessary because we have so many wise individuals with a vast amount of knowledge to be able to put something on the table, but we ultimately got to be able to take it and do something with it. I think that there's a slogan that I always used to see in school. It said, knowledge is power. I said, well, that's a half-truth. And a half-truth is a whole lot. Because it's the information plus the application that creates the manifestation. So we got to do something with the information. And if we could continue to come together like this and get more people involved, the right people involved, even those individuals who might not want to be involved, we got to do it more collectively because united we stand.
All right.
Divided we fall.
Okay, can you tell us your website? Because he gave you a plug, but we
yes, my website is www.mrharge.com. And primarily what I do on a daily basis since 2009 is going to the different schools in this area, locally and nationally, and just provide information, content, perspectives, motivation, and education to the youth that they don't get within the traditional aspects of education. Oftentimes, education focuses on the pupil. I want to focus on the person.
All right.
Okay? So, because if I help you become a better person, you'll automatically become a better pupil. So I believe that life is what you make it. And everything that we want is up to you to create it, so don't mistake it. So we must pray for the vision and utilize wisdom when it comes to decisions. Because as a man thinketh in his mind, so is our thoughts and actions will determine what we're going to. You got to seek the truth because the truth will keep you. Life and death in the tongue. Speak what you want to see because it could be. And never ever lose faith. Dreams don't manifest when you're playing safe, so you got to chase. Dreams need a believer. Actions turn a believer to an achiever. So, y'all all right? Okay. So that's what I do. I go into the schools, but I speak their language. And I think that when you understand and have cultural competence pertaining to the individuals that you're educating, that makes a difference.
All right. Thank you, sir. I like that, man.
Amen.
I wrote some of that down, by the way. Okay.
You should really hear when he really gets started.
Okay. I'm going to check him out. We're going to come to you, former chief, and then we'll go to you, Supervisor Scott.
What I wanted to talk to everyone about, and this is about empowerment in your own communities. Every one of you live somewhere, well, except for the visitors from Tampa and so forth, but you live somewhere in this community. Do you know about Goodwill Equity Bank? You ever heard of that before? Goodwill Equity Bank. All right. Every chief knows that. Okay, you may not know that, but every chief knows that. The chief, when they call it Goodwill Equity Bank, that's the bank that the chief goes to when hell breaks out in the community. They go to the clergy, they go to the elected officials, they go to the school principal, they go to all the people who they know have influence and power within that community to help them quell what's going on in the community. Hey man, I know my officer shot, that kid on the corner, I really need you to help me bring this down. Okay, so that chief there is banking every time that he does or she does something in the community that I'm gonna put that in my pocket, which means I need to be engaged. So that chief is going to engage themselves with that community. Now, where are you staying? Will the chief call you? Because if the chief won't call you, then you need to put your name in the hat. So that you are one of those individuals when something goes wrong in the community, don't wait for it to happen, and then watch it on television. Be part of that. Be inclusion in there. Be inclusive with all of that, what's going on. And that is what will help make changes in your community. That will help your community not burn down. I had a kid that jumped out the 3rd floor tier with handcuffs on. Miami Gardens at the same time was having a protest. 1 click away from Miramar. They were having a protest about public safety and violence and so forth. And at the same time, I had a gentleman who was running from police and doing all that stuff, and we called him, and he was in the parking garage, and he decided he wanted to escape. And so he was running through the parking garage on the 3rd floor with his hands behind his back and handcuffs and dove out the 3rd floor tier. I was about to get on the plane. I was going to a conference at the time. So I'm going to close with this. What happened is that they asked me, Chief, what are you going to say? First thing I said, call the clergy, call I said, call the whole community, everybody, everyone that I had worked with in my community. I said, call them and then get the video out and show the video of what happened. Sure enough, it showed. My man took off running from the cops and dove out the 3rd floor because he thought he was on the 1st. Okay? Now, the headlines, right? When you look at that, either the headlines are going to read police brutality, excessive use of force, or something to that effect, because we threw them out the window, or red suicide. I'd rather have the truth out early. The only way to get the truth out early is to involve the individuals that are in the community and let them know the truth right then and there. So that they can be the people who can speak. I don't have to say anything. You rarely ever saw me on television. Because I told them, I said, if I come on television, it's bad. It's bad if I got to come on television. All those other chiefs, they were running to the podium. They wanted to be out there. I don't need to be out there. My community got my back. Why? Because I involved them in everything that I do. Every single thing that I did, I made sure they were part of that. So make sure you take the liberty to go to your community, contact your chief of police, whether it's the sheriff's office, whoever, it doesn't matter. Anybody, you call them and let them know, I want to be on the list. I want to sit down and I want to meet with you. I want to listen to your statistics. I want to know what's going on at the shop around the corner. I want to know why those drug dealers are still sitting over there and you ain't doing nothing about it. I want to know about all those things. We drive past it every day, but we don't convince ourselves that we are important enough to ask the question about it. Ask the question. Because I live in Miramar, and I drive through, and God help me if I see an officer. I'm retired. And if an officer sees me, they pull off. Why? Because they know they shouldn't have been parking at the Target in the back. And they know I'm going to be on the phone 2 seconds there later to say, hey, man, why was, Hernandez sitting behind the Publix and so-and-so? What? And they already know what's going to happen. So, If I'm watching, you should be watching too. You are my eyes and ears for our community. Make sure you become a difference. Make sure that they understand that you are watching as well. And take that liberty so your community always has a good quality of life. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's start.
So ever since, Mr. Weeks talked about the little stunt that our governor pulled a few weeks ago, and since that day, almost every day, I'm talking to somebody who is concerned about their status and what they should do, whether or not they're allowed to vote, whether they, what do they need to do? So I'm guessing there might be some people in this room, or you might know, if not for yourself, for somebody that you love, or somebody that you know, who's a returning citizen and isn't sure if they should vote. So I want to try to make that as simple as we possibly can, okay? If the conviction was for a murder charge or a sexual offense, you have to get clemency. You have to go to the clemency board before you will be able to vote again. For any other, only felony convictions, okay? Felony convictions, all right? So not for anybody if adjudication withheld, you are convicted, all right? If you are convicted of a felony, you lose your right to vote until you have completed all of the terms of your sentence, okay? So that means you have to be off of probation. You have to pay those fines and fees and restitution. And once you've completed all terms of that sentence, you should not look for permission from anybody to exercise your rights, okay? The constitutional amendment that was passed, Amendment 4, says that you are automatically restored. Your right to vote is automatically restored, meaning that you have that power. That power is yours. That right is yours, and it is yours to exercise. You should register to vote. You should vote because you have a right to vote. Is that clear?
Let me just follow up on that, and our supervisor election is a really, really, really good guy on daily because he has a lot of courage to take on these issues when they know there's a lot of political stunts that's being played, a lot of grandstanding that's being played. I know this whole returning citizens thing is very, very complicated, and folks are very concerned. They don't want to step on a crack and then find themselves back in trouble with the law. If you are unsure as to where you stand, please reach out to my office. Go to our website. We have our contact information on the website. You just fill out the form. Lorena Masterigo is the chief assistant in our office. She's going to be handling this up in our office. She will review your background, make sure that you have a withhold of adjudication, or whether you have a conviction, or whether your case was dismissed or no problem. And then you'll be able to know exactly where you stand, how much money you owe, whether you paid it back, because I can tell you, this system is incredibly complicated by design. And I don't want anyone to not pursue an opportunity to vote because they're afraid that they're going to get in trouble. Go to our website. Lorena will follow up with you, walk you through the process, explain to you where you stand so you can make those decisions and then go over to the supervisor of elections office and register to vote. I have seen far too many people come to me and say, I'm not sure. I can't remember what happened on that day. It was 20 years ago. I don't know if it was a withhold or not. I think it was a withhold. I don't know if it was a conviction. I don't know if I paid my restitution. I don't know. Please follow up, reach out to our office. We'll get you that information so you can be able to move forward.
Okay, thank you. Let's give our panel a hand. All right, we do that in now. Let's give them a hand. Thank you, thank you. Just a few household duties. I want our state attorney, honorable state attorney, Hal Pryor was supposed to be with us this evening. something came up, he couldn't make it, but he did want us to announce that there'll be a sealing and expungement workshop on October 20th from 3 to 7, and that is at the Oveta Recreational Complex in Deerfield Beach, 445 Southwest 2nd Street. And there's a QR code if you would like to pre-register. Before I sit, I was looking for a team from Tampa, Society First. We want to acknowledge them. I want to acknowledge them. They came all the way from Tampa to be with us today. I don't see Joan. Did she? She stepped out? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to bring up what we call our potentate. We're going to let him come up. You can be seated just for a second. We're going to let our fearless leader come up. He's coming up and he'll give our final remarks.
And right before he comes up, let's give it a great host to Dr. Sanders and the good job he did.
H-A-R-D-G-E, H-A-R-D-G-E, H-A-R-D-G-E.
No, let's give our moderator a hand. You know how to handle this business. And we're grateful for you that come, and even though we are doing this is not a program, it's a movement. The reason it's a movement is that we, as I shared with a lot of brothers and Brother Hodge that we spoke to this morning, I spoke to those that's from from Tampa. The thing is that we got a panoramic problem, and we got inset solutions. The solutions are inset, but it's not dealing with the whole picture. Our thing is to bring as many solution programs together so that we can have a common objective to this panoramic problem. One solution is not affecting the problem that's destroying our communities. And until we do that, one or two solutions in 2 or 3 corners of this panoramic is not going to make a whole lot of difference. We need to actually now, because one thing I'd say, and that is the wagon that was pulling the problems we're dealing with right now was the same wagon with the same problems that Martin, Malcolm, Rap Brown, Stokely, and Angela Davis was pulling. It's the same wagon, just pulled by different mules. We're pulling that same wagon because the problems are still the same. Mainly because we're dealing with a domination system. It's not a matter of 1 or 2 things. The system, not only with government and politics, the domination system is always been there. The domination system always been there because it regulates people based upon various caste system, the way they actually categorize. And we then are victims of that system. And so until we come up with solutions, because even though we hear the problems that's been generated, spoken of, we know the problem. We need to get enough people like MIA, Dr. Webb still here for finances. We need people like that to set, and we come together, not taking over nobody's organization, but getting all of these effective organizations at one table, and we come up with a common objective to a common solution to this panoramic problem. Because if we don't do it, we're going to be doing the same thing I was doing in the 60s with those back there, and we'll be talking about the same problem and the same systemic government. This system will be the death sentence of our heritage if we don't stop it. Our culture and our children, we might as well write them off because there's nothing going to be left for them. We're going to leave, especially when we're talking to pastors, we're going to leave our churches one Sunday and we won't have no community. Until we recognize if we don't make the difference, stop depending on the government. I was a mayor for 16 years. Ideals are okay. Yeah, but they need enough votes to actually work collectively or collaboratively. Until we come to the point to do that, it's not going to happen. All of you that are here today, and we that have been coming together, as Dr. Sanders says, for over a year, we're concerned. We're all pastors. All of us are not pastors. Some of them not pastors, but they have concerns. We come together because we love our community and we want our children to have a future. If we don't do it, they're not going to have it. We cannot stand on the laurels of our own successes. Your success does not mean your children are going to be successful as long as this system keep putting in legislation and laws to hold them back and stymieing our history. We need to know how great we are so that we can still pursue greatness. We're victimized by this system. And I heard, I call it Dr. Weeks, but I heard Attorney Weeks say, listen, we are we are anomalies. We weren't supposed to be here. There's things in the Constitution where they were striving to eliminate us. We're only here because there's nothing that has happened that caused from any race to survive like we have survived and still thrive. And we then still stand here today. And until we actually come to a point where we can sit down together and realize in forums like this, because we do this, we're going to do this every quarter. I see Wells back there. Wells for finance. These are all, so what we're looking for is solutions. That's a solution from finances. We have a solution from a brother in Dade County, got an academy on 11 acres on how to teach our men how to become construction engineers or work in construction. We're looking for solutions to come to one table and put those solutions down and say, come on, we don't want to just tell you about the solution. Here's the one you go to actually benefit from the solution. We want to have the benefit from the solution at the table. And that's what we're working towards. And again, I'm just saying what I'm saying in relation. Pastor Stanley is our vice president of this, and I have a lot to do. He has a lot to do. Sanders has a lot to do. All of us have a lot to do. Jackson, all of us have a lot to do. But what we do don't matter if our people are not around anymore. So we need to make sure that we got people that appreciate us being here. And the way we're going to do that, we got to use whatever authority and power God has given us to make sure that when we leave, we have a legacy to follow. God bless you, and thank y'all for coming. That's it. Let's all stand. For all the panels and those from Palm Beach, Tampa still here? Yes, sir. Yes. They got some table. You got something at the table, you said? Okay, and listen, we appreciate y'all coming all the way down. And we wanna connect with y'all. All right. So let us all. Heavenly Father, we recognize, God, that we are frail human beings. But you have kept us through storms, through injustices, through inequities. You've allowed us to arrive to where we are. Lord, we're still hurting, but somehow you help us to operate in our pain. And we're thankful for that. We're thankful for these that have sacrificed their time to come share their expertise and help us to understand what we're dealing with. And Lord, and sometimes I think we think we're dealing with each other. We've been trained not to like each other. We've been trained not to come together. But we can come together. We can help ourselves. Lord, help us to stop depending on others to carry our load. They have shown us up to this point that nobody is looking forward to us being who we are called to be. We then must be who we are called to be based upon who you call us to be. Help us to then arrive in a way where we are not saying that this or that person help us to get where we are. You're the one that will help us to get where we are, or where we need to be. Help us to be mindful that life is short. We don't have time to sit and reminisce or sit and complain, because time is passing as we complain and as we seek revenge or we seek hatred. We need to be productive. Then show us, God, with the wisdom necessary based upon the knowledge gained and experience, so that when we do stand, we will stand, Lord, not guessing, but knowing that we put in the work and we wait for you to bring forth the results. We thank you. Help us to be sacrificial, for anything that's worth having is worth dying for. We thank you and we give you praise. In Jesus' name, amen.